We are back again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the channel again.
In 2008, and they can put that slide number 3 there. In 2008, there were 4.8 million people employed in the age group 25 to 34. 4.8 million. In 2008, there were 1.6 million people employed in the age group 15 to 24. Fast forward to the last quarter of this year, the third quarter of this year. So the third quarter of this year, the numbers are 4.7 million for those who are 25 to 34 and remain 1 million for those who are 15 to 16.
It's gone down.
So now, can you tell me that then youth is a priority in terms of employment? Or is employment a priority at all? Is unemployment, dealing with unemployment, a priority? It is not. The evidence suggests otherwise.
Let me just pop in there, Dr. Lehotla. So we're asking our team to show our viewers that slide, which maps the decline over the last the last years since 2008. And again, debunking this idea then that if it had been a priority, we would have at least seen the number shift because the policy, the execution would have supported that goal of prioritization. So it suggests it has not.
Well, the priorities are bankrupt. Yeah. They are devoid of any evidence. They are devoid of any forward-looking process. They are devoid of foresight. Once your policy doesn't have foresight and doesn't have future proof, then it's not worth the paper it is written on. And this is what we are seeing now.
So, again, and we'll bring up those slides as and when we can. So we're trying to build this conversation to show our viewers just the statistical data that underpins, and we should be evidence-based in our responses.
Well, it's rhetoric. Everybody says we are evidence-based, we are numbers-based. We are not. Oh, the slide is up there.
Yeah.
So you can see for the lower part of the bars, or you want me to stand there? I can just...
No. You be seated. Yeah. You can just point because that's what our viewers are seeing right now.
I see. All right. Yeah. So you see the lower bar here, the lower bars at 25 to 34 and 24 to 15 to 24. The numbers for those, that's where you had over 4.8 million in 2008. The one bar shows 2008, the other one shows 2024. So you are looking at 16 years later, you have fewer people employed in those bars compared to 2008 for those two groups. The only growth that has happened is for those who are 35 and above. So when a young person who is unemployed, I keep rabbits.
Yeah.
When I have not fed them, they eat their young ones.
Wow. I didn't know that about rabbits.
They do. So are cats. So are South Africans.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
That's as profound as this is. We have eaten the future of our children.
Dr. Lehotla, the next three pieces that we're talking about are meant to answer the complex question of how we change this outcome, right? So we're going to be talking about growing the informal sector, for example. We'll talk about buying black. We'll talk about the colonial and apartheid legacy around education. Should we move forward from those points?
Yes, I would like to debunk the myth that Harvard says about South Africa's informal sector being small as a share of employment relative to the African countries.
In fact, before you go into it, let me preface it a little bit, right? And I think we've got a slide on that as well, around the informal settlement. So that's slide number one. So research agency, and you're going to talk about Harvard in a moment, but if you think about South Africa Trade Intelligence, they estimated that the size of South Africa's fast-moving consumer goods category or retail market here in South Africa will be around 197 billion rand in 2023, 11.1 million people shopping in about 150,000 stores across the country. So the headline in Business Tech, I think that was last month, was that big business wants in on South Africa's booming 200 billion rand informal economy. Is that a well-placed argument around the size of the informal sector in South Africa. What we generally understand that it's small, it's not going anywhere. How do you see it?
Well, they've put it euphemistically. That and they show. Let me put the Harvard argument first,
Okay,
and then we'll come to this issue, which glorifies what big business is doing, which is going into the informal sector, small as it is. If you look at the graphs, the graph that they just removed on informal sector, if you can bring that graph again, because it compares the size of the informal sector of South Africa relative to that of the African continent. In South Africa, it is smaller, but the solution is not to increase the size of the informal sector. The key problem is concentration by monopoly capital. That's where it is. But Harvard wants to sketch that issue and blame it on the small size of the informal sector. There's no way you can grow an informal sector when you have concentration. The concentration has been there for years, and you have vertical integration of the value chains. So to suggest that you can create informal sector to break those monopolies is very naive. In fact, Harvard cannot be naive in this thing.
Let me get the trajectory comparatively that the Indian community made in forging their own education destiny from the 1950s.
Indeed. I mean, if they could put up slide number 5, you will see that. What is very important here is to understand that there's no intergenerational value accruing to the colored and the black community. Absolutely none. And because of that, you can see the graph of whites going up, the graph of Afrikaners of Indians going up. You see the graph of blacks and colors going down. It shows that there's no intergenerational value accruing to these people. And that's why you cannot crack that monopoly capital, which is white, actually, essentially white. The Indians were able to crack this in 1953 when the book said was the use of teaching Bantu child mathematics when you can't use it in practice. They were able to crack this. Why? Because they acted on it. They acted on the education. And you see that the graph of the Indians from 1953 departed from their cohort of blacks and colors.
What do they do?
This is where a learning organization should do and search what is it that the Indians did. Because that is what is required, with probably modifications to be done by blacks and colors. But the result of that, 70 years later, or rather 70 years later from 1953, is what you see in that graph of the Indians. I mean, if you look at this graph of the Indians here, you can see it is going up. For those who are 65 years, you can see that graph going up, departing from this graph of blacks, going up that way. And then the Indians and colors going that way. That's what we have to be understanding as South Africa. Rather than these policies that will follow this policy, that policy, which are not worth the ink written on that paper. Meaning of slide number 7. There cannot be peace in this country. If you look at the inequality amongst the blacks, this is inequality amongst the blacks. It's the highest in the race groups. Of course, neoliberal policies say some level of inequality is important for development. There is nothing that justifies this kind of inequality for blacks. And what happens is those who are like myself, who have gotten some education, we are responsible for this inequality, and those who got BEEs, because a few of them got that and left the masses poor and hungry and cold. This level of inequality in South Africa, with this level of inequality, you cannot have peace. Well, particularly amongst one race group. This is the inequality amongst whites. These guys manage to drink their wine and whiskey without fighting over mkopo tea. So this is the problem, and that problem is anchored in education. It's anchored in this new liberal policies that we have followed. And this is not going to change.
Okay, so let me put it to you then, this particular perspective. Black ownership of businesses in South Africa, I think this is 2022 is the last number that I've got, 30%.
So will I be correct if I say to you guys, well, I can understand what he's saying in terms of the inequality, okay? Uh, don't you think, because we all know that the white people, they have got most of their kids, okay? They go to private schools, which actually gives them the good education, you know? And obviously, if they get a good education, quality education, obviously, they are going to be producing, I can say, quality, workers, quality, sort of like, work level, whatever it is called, okay? All I'm saying is, as long as, okay, and I repeat, as long as black people get education that is actually poor, okay, versus the white people or the other races, which are actually getting the quality education, okay, there's never going to be equality. Obviously, it will never happen. That is why, okay, I don't know about the Bella Pill. I don't know if the Bella Pill is good for our kids. I don't know if it will benefit them positively. I don't know if it will make them equal, okay, to the other races. I don't know. But if it's going to actually do that, and then it's good. It is good. It is good for our black people. It is good for our black kids. Those who are in at home, those who are emakaya, it is good. But every time I see a graph, and it always makes the white people to be at the top, it is because I don't think also they will allow that. And let me say this point. This is very important. I don't think that those people who are at the top, they will allow us to do what? To actually be part of, okay, be equal to them or with them. They will never allow it. Even if we can try several times, even if we can try and do it, they will never allow it. That's why they were opposing the Bella Bill. That is why they don't want us to be equal. That is why even Malema spoke about this thing. He actually said that what the white people or the other races, okay, let me just say white people, so that we are clear, okay? Some of the white people, I don't know whether to say some, or because some people they might say not all of us, but let me say some of the white people, okay? He says that this is Mama Lima, okay? I'm using some, but we all know Mama Lima is radical. He always say white people, okay? He says that, one thing that they are afraid of, it's not nothing else, but they are afraid of equality, being equal with black people. Okay, that is why the NHI is a problem to them. That is why the Bella Bill is a problem to them. Why? Because these things, they are trying to make the black people to be equal to them in the healthcare center, in the healthcare department, also in the education part. Okay, that is why I said I don't know about the Bella Bill, if it's going to be making us or bringing us to that level, or maybe closer to that level. I don't know, but if it does, okay, then it's a good thing. Okay, that is why perhaps they are pushing it back. So when it comes to the graphs, guys, every time I see a graph and it puts the white people at the top, I always say in my mind, as long as these people, they are not going to accept us to be equal to them, we will never get to be equal to them. We will never. Because they are the ones who are controlling this whole thing. They are the ones who are controlling it. If they wanted it to be, for example, their kids, obviously, they go to private schools. For example, they go to private school. Obviously, guys, there is no way that a child from somewhere, Emakaya there. Now, it does happen, you find a child, okay, who is from Emakaya, who is very smart, okay, or very smart. But we all know that what happens after. They go to private schools. They steal them. They take them, okay, and use them to do something for them so that they stay up there. That is why there was a guy on TikTok was actually talking about in companies. When you go to companies, managers that you find there are black people. Almost all of them, it's black people. And I know you will say to me, yeah, but we are a majority. What? Yes. Okay, we are you will find black managers, which shows that black people, they do have skills. They do have what it takes for them to do things. Okay, but we are made to believe that we are not. Okay, now I don't know, guys, what do you think about the graph? Okay, I don't know what do you think about the equality, especially the education, because everything begins and starts in the education part. You know, they have got a superior education. Their education is better than the education you find in public schools. You know, and and I repeat again, guys, about the Bella Bill. I repeat and I repeat. If the Bella Bill is not going to take us almost to their level, it's useless. It has to take us to that level. If the NHI doesn't take us to the level of almost being equal, because I don't think we will ever be equal with them. I don't think so. If it doesn't take us at least closer, it is useless. Okay? Anyway, I don't know, guys, what do you think about that? When I was watching that, I was like, a lot of things is happening, you know, and unfortunately, and when the guy says the reason why, okay, when the guy says that I blame those who are educated, you know, in that equality, in that black people equality, what, right? In most cases, when you find people who are working, especially who are working well, that means they get some nice salaries. You find them taking their kids to them private schools. Which actually it makes them to have their own group. In other words, I can even say you can count them with those guys who are at the top. Okay, because they take their kids to them private schools, and then they get some nice and big and nice, you know, advantage when it comes to the education. When they come back down here, already when they apply and they compare whether they went to school, and they compare with a person who's from Emakaya who went to school, and then they see with even when it comes to tertiary, they see you are from college, and they see this one. You are both black people, but this one is from a better university or whatever. This one is from a college, TVET college. And then they are comparing, they are like, nah, we want to take this one. That's what happens. And I believe that's what actually the minister was talking about when he says he blames those people who are actually educated and working, who are black people, okay? Because in most cases, when we get to that point, we move and we join those guys who are at the top, and we leave the people at the bottom. I don't know, guys, but guys, let me tell you something. When people get money, and I repeat, when people get money, they forget you. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me, what do you think about this? As you can see, the red line there. Equality. Look at the top one. Those are whites, Baba. Anyway, thank you, guys. Please subscribe, share, and all of that. Please, you can go and watch the whole video, the whole thing on Newsroom Africa. I hope you enjoy the video, guys. Thank you so much, and you have a fantastic day. Sharp. I am out.